Hi, welcome back to the channel. This week we're going to create the ultimate bass in Vital. So let's get started. The first thing to do is set up a basic saw on oscillator 1. Let's draw that in. Now we're going to copy, paste, and paste. Turn them on. So we have exactly the same waveform in each of the 3 oscillator slots. The reason for doing so is we're going to have the fundamental on oscillator 3, the second harmonic on oscillator 2, and the upper harmonics on oscillator 1. So click on the edit, right click, and we do clear left. On oscillator 2 we do clear left and also clear right. And then oscillator 3 we just do clear right. So we have the fundamental. If we play this back, it should be exactly the same. Need to turn this down, obviously. Let's now add a filter. One of the downsides to Vital is the missing 18 dB filter. I believe the diode is 18 dB, but it just doesn't sound right. So let's go with analog. Let's choose 12. Resonance down. Now we need to make sure that oscillator 1, 2, and 3 are going to it. Assign it to a envelope. 1/16. Turn down the random phase, obviously, that should be by default. Now, one way to mimic an 18 dB filter is to add a second analog at 12 dB. Make sure it's coming from filter 1. But then what we need to do then is turn the mix down. Ignore the visual display, it really doesn't give the impression that it's 18 dB. But I did test this with some white noise and a Pro Q with 18 dB slope. And if you put the mix around 40%, then it mirrors a 18 dB slope. So we're getting there. Now the next thing is we need to set up an automatic ducking for the second harmonic and the sub. So we don't want them playing at the same time the kick is playing. So let's set up a LFO2. Make sure that this is selected on step. Make sure it's on 4. And if we hold down Alt. So we have the kick, the first bass, and then second and third bass note. Has to go on sync for 1/4. Turn the smooth down. So now if we assign this to volume, on oscillator 2 and 3, turn the level all the way down. This envelope will control the level of oscillator 2 and 3. Just make sure that it's at the same level as oscillator 1, which is 0.5. So enter value 0.5, enter value 0.5. So now we have oscillator 1 playing constantly. Oscillator 2 and 3, however, is only playing on the second and third bass note. But we want the ability to dial that in and out. So let's go LFO3, do essentially the same thing. Sync, 1/4, smooth, down. But we're going to do on the first bass note, which is the second node here. Let's assign, enter value 0.5, enter value 0.5. So now with it set like this, it's playing all 3 bass notes. So now if we go to the matrix, we see LFO2 is here and LFO3 is here. So we only really want to apply the ducking on the first bass note. We want it to constantly be in the second and third, but we only want to affect the first bass note, which is LFO3. So let's go macro 2, and then we want, this is mod slot 5, mod matrix, envelope 5 amount. There's 2 LFOs we need to affect, so do a second one, and this one is modulation 6 amount. Now to test that, let's go over to these little notes here. Instead of a bass pattern, I've just put a note down on the 2nd 16th, which is the one we're trying to duck. Let's add a Pro Q. Currently they're set to 0, which obviously won't work. We need to dial them in. So let's play this back and watch the second harmonic and the fundamental. You can see that they're dramatically increased now. But obviously that's not the way we want. So let's turn them down. And now they're disappearing. Just make this a bit smaller so you can actually see it. So when I play this back now, you'll see the second harmonic and the fundamental either get louder or drop out completely when I dial this macro. So let's play it back. Now they're not there because the macro is fully engaged. Turn it down and then they reappear. So this is essentially the amount of ducking that is applying on the first bass note. Rename this kick, duck. Let's just put it around 50% for now. If I go to the bass, let's check Pro Q again. You can see we have the fundamental and the first harmonic peaking quite a bit louder than the second harmonic, which we may or might not want. So let's add a macro here, second harmonic, and the fourth one we will call fundamental. Now we can assign the second to the level of oscillator 2 and the fundamental to the level of oscillator 3. Let's turn this to 0.5 so it's in the middle. Go into the matrix and then we turn 3 and 4, they need to be bipolar. And now we're going to play with the modulation depth here. So we'll play this back and we'll see what happens when we turn the dial all the way up. Up, way too loud, and same with the sub. So let's dial the second harmonic back. Let's say around 0.5. Same for the sub. So now, if we adjust the macros, we can turn the second harmonic up, which it is now, back to 0 where it really should be, or we can drop it out quite a bit as well. So let's balance this in with the second harmonic, which is about there, and then the same for the sub. We can it's maxed now, turn it down and it drops out, or we can put it around there to level it up as well. So we're getting there, we just don't have anything controlling the amplitude, the final output yet. So let's do a bit of checking. If we go to our single hit here, play this back. And I'm going to render this out. If we have a look, we can see the start of the bass note here, and then the second bass note should start there, but you can see there's some overlap. Now the tail end of the bass is going to cause some issues with the next bass note, but it's also going to overlap with the kick. It's at this point that usually LFO tool or something similar like that comes in to cut the tail. But as I said, we're trying to do it as cleanly as possible within the synth itself. So let's delete this for now that I've shown you that. Remove. And we're going to have a look in Oscillos, which will show you basically the same thing. It's very dark, this line here, but there's a line here where the bass note starts and a second line where it ends. So you can see this tail that we're trying to remove. So to that end, let's grab a LFO 4, envelope, 1/16 down, all the way up like that, volume down on the master output. Now assign it to the master, adjust the output so it's not clipping, about there. Now when we go to Oscillos, you can see start and the end. It's perfectly contained within 1/16. Let's render this out. Perfectly within 1/16. Let's delete this now. What I'm also seeing from Oscillos is you have the attack. The transient is really quite a bit in, which means the phase is off. So let's turn this down. Let's go, let's try 90. Yes, so that really helped. Let's do them all at 90. So now we have the attack working perfectly. Let's set up a macro for the cutoff. Put that on the cutoff for 1 and 2. Turn it all the way up and then we'll dial it back to taste. Let's just adjust our levels. The kick is -10, which is good. The bass. Just do a bit of fine tuning on that cutoff. So there we have it, a super clean bass patch within Vital that's automatically ducking out of the way of the kick and with a pseudo 18 dB filter and also not overlapping into the next 16th, all controlled by these 4 macros here. So I hope you enjoyed it, I hope you found it useful. Thanks for watching, bye.